Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. The first one is titled, "Neighbor Set My House on Fire Because My Grass Was Too Tall." My wife and I live a pretty happy life together. We have been happily married for several years, bought our first house together, and 3 years ago we introduced our daughter Maddie to the world. We lived in a quiet neighborhood, which was good for us since we wanted to raise our daughter in a safe environment. We were on a first name basis with all of the neighbors and they were always friendly with us. Our next door neighbor Tom was deemed as the crazy neighbor of the area, with many people having stories of his antics. Although he seemed a bit hyperactive, he was always nice to my family and I and had never caused us any disturbances. There were no fences around our house or most of the properties in the neighborhood. This caused some of the neighbors to share part of their lawns or yards overlapping. My wife and I kept up with the maintenance and cosmetics of the house, if you will, and had gardeners over every 2 weeks in order to cut the grass, clip back the bushes, etc. Every now and then, the gardeners missed a week, which was really no big deal as I owned a lawnmower and my wife enjoyed working in our garden. However, usually they let us know that they would not be coming over. Well, 1 month they missed 2 weeks and our grass was starting to overgrow. I'd been meaning to mow it, but my wife and I just had been so busy with both of us working and taking care of our daughter that it was just not happening. I would consider myself a pretty good neighbor, and although my yard was starting to look a little bit unkept, I didn't think that it would cause any chaos in the neighborhood. But boy, I was sure wrong. Not only did it cause chaos with my neighbor, my unkept grass also caused destruction and devastation. Tom from next door lit my house on fire while my daughter and I were in it. Yes, over the unkept grass. Here is a little backstory on how it led up to this, which is still a shock to me. After the gardeners had missed several weeks and I was too busy to mow the grass, I admit the grass was starting to look unkept. My neighbor Tom was also sure to bring it to my attention one day when I was coming home from work. Tom, "Hey, are you going to cut your grass anytime soon? It is starting to look like a bum life there." Me, "Oh yes, I'm going to do it this weekend. Been pretty busy." After this brief interaction, he just humped and walked inside his house. While some people would be offended at this interaction, Tom was known for being odd, crazy, and well, to be quite honest, a little socially awkward. However, he was a nice guy from what I had seen and his tone seemed playful, so I just figured it was some friendly neighborhood banter. When the weekend rolled around, my wife ended up having to pick an extra shift at work. So while I was home and not working, I was watching over and spending time with my daughter. I decided that mowing the lawn could wait another day or two while I watched over my daughter. The fact that I was not mowing my lawn right on the dot when I said I would enraged Mr. Tom enough to smash my windows and pour gasoline on my kitchen and light it on fire. I was sitting in the living room with my daughter when all of a sudden I hear a huge crashing sound and glass shattering. "Tom, you've got about 10 seconds to come outside." I was so confused, I thought someone was breaking into the house at first. I could hear someone running away, so I picked up my daughter quickly and ran to her room. While I was running past the kitchen though, I saw Tom running away from my house. I was then even more confused, but I felt like my daughter's safety was at hand, so I just ran to her room to call 911. I did not have time to figure out what was happening, I just wanted to make sure my daughter was safe. Imagine my surprise though that while on the phone with 911 I began to smell something burning. And guess what? It was my house. Tom had come back and poured an entire gas can full of gasoline all over my kitchen floor and then proceeded to light the room on fire. Luckily, my daughter's room was right next to the backyard and I was able to escape from the backyard door and ran over to another neighbor's house who was on her porch witnessing everything. I had told her what had happened and she had told me her son and other neighbor called 911 because they thought there was a fight. It was a devastating sight when the police showed up. The house had been completely destroyed and the fire had even caused some damage to my other neighbor's yard. I had to call my wife and let her know what had happened, and luckily her parents are letting us stay with them until everything gets sorted out or rebuilt. It is all still up in the air. Tom did actually admit to the police right then and there that it was him who started the fire, and he even admitted it was because I was being a reckless neighbor by not having my grass cut. I was surprised to learn that Tom actually had a lengthy criminal record and was considered an armed and dangerous person. While yes, he did seem like he had a screw loose in the head, he never seemed violent up until this interaction with him. Because Tom turned himself into the police and was completely honest with them about what he did and why he did it, they were able to arrest him and sentence him to jail. My neighbor actually has a security camera that caught part of the whole ordeal, and we were able to use that in the court as well. Tom ended up receiving a sentence of about 3 years, which does not seem long enough for what he did. Think about what I would have done if my daughter were in another room. Would I have been able to get her? Anyways, I am hoping that Tom is not allowed back into his house or the neighborhood after his release from prison, but we are just taking everything one day at a time. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I guess if someone would have been hurt in the fire, then his sentence would have been much longer. Then again, I am happy for OP that nothing happened to him or his daughter, but of course it is still a very sad situation. Anyway, if you enjoy the stories about crazy neighbors, then I would really appreciate it if you could post some star emojis in the comments if you want to support my channel. Thank you so much in advance. The next one is titled, Am I the a-hole for having someone's car towed up with no warning? 3 years ago, my 30 male, sister 36 female, and I had the opportunity to get our dad 62 male a house that was close to us after our mom passed away. Before her passing, he used to be this funny, friendly and happy guy who was always making jokes and was the sunshine of our lives, but with all due reasons, after my mom died, he became sad and lonely. He cried almost every day and it hurt our hearts to see him like that. We lived in the next city for work and we begged him to please come with us. He refused at first because leaving the family home hurt him more than living in it, but after a while he agreed. He chose a small house just for him and his pets. We did not rent him an apartment because he's just not really that kind of guy. He has a 2016 Aveo that doesn't drive that much right now, but from time to time he likes to go back to our hometown and just spend the day in the places he and my mom used to go. The problem with this is that he can last a month or so without moving the car. He uses it more during October to December because it was my mom's favorite time of the year. And thus, his neighbors, a 25-ish married couple, uses his driveway because the dude owns 4 cars and doesn't have the space. My dad doesn't have that much of a problem since he leaves his car in the garage and told me that whenever he needs to get it out, he just calls the girl and she moves the other one until a few months ago when apparently the girl is nowhere to be found and the guy is home all day, so he had asked him a few times to please move the car and the dude just says, "Yeah, sure," and takes an hour or 2 to do so, and my dad cannot drive it because it is already too dark for him to see. Yesterday I went to visit him and he wanted to take me to see some sport cars. I don't know, man, he's like a child that he found next to a park, like those public cars show-ups. I'm not sure, he just wanted to drive his car, but the neighbor had his in my dad's driveway and so he went to ask him to please move it. He said yes, but after 30 minutes of not seeing him, my dad explained to me the above and I said no problem and called someone to get it towed. The dude obviously freaked out when he saw what was happening and asked what the hell I was doing. Apparently the dude doesn't have the right documentation for the car and cannot get it back because he doesn't have the money. He is calling me an a-hole, and while my dad doesn't agree with him, he doesn't agree with me too. But man, my dad was doing him a favor and he acted like an entitled prick. However, if I was wrong in my acting, I'm willing to say sorry and get him his stuff back. Edit. Well, I didn't expect this to blow up, but I guess I should clarify some things. Number 1. No, my dad did not lose some long relationship or agreement. The guy started to park his car there 2 years ago. He just came one day and said, "Hey, it is okay if I leave this for a while." And it has been 2 years since. My dad didn't like it, but he didn't want to have more problems, and since he only used the car a few times per year, he just let it pass because the girl always moved it in time. Number 2, he used to complain to my sister and I how he wasn't able to run errands from time to time. He never mentioned his neighbor or the car there. I just thought that it was because he forgot about them or he forgot which buses took him to the places he needed to get. After the incident, I asked him about the situation and he usually missed some quick runs to the store for food or personal items. Number 3, guys, even if my dad wants to take his car out for something that could take him a 2-minute walk, he is entitled to it. He is a 62-year-old man who has worked since he was 13. He should not be walking long or short distances just because some 25-ish doesn't want to get up when he is asked to. My dad is more than kind, and since he is sad all the time, he just doesn't want to fight. That didn't mean he was okay with the situations. He used to go 2 to 3 times to ask him to please move it because it was getting dark and he just didn't. Yeah, I didn't ask a second time, but I won't apologize for that. Number 4, my dad did not like that I said, "I can get your stuff back if you honestly apologize to my dad." He told me to get effed and I said I won't get him anything then, but I know my dad, I know he is happy to not have to deal with that car in his driveway anymore. The neighbor is not mad at him anyway, he is mad at me. And a user in the comments said, "Not the a-hole, this guy was obviously taking advantage of your father's kindness. By your own account, this is not the first time this guy has taken his time to move the car and left your dad stuck. Clearly being nice wasn't working, he was disrespectful and now he has to deal with the consequences." Another user said, "Not the a-hole, I get the everyone sucks here and the you are the a-hole comments, but come on, the dad is clearly non-confrontational. They legit abused his generosity twice, he did nothing after the first time and let it be. If his son hadn't done anything, it would have continued to be like this. The neighbor is legit at the house and ignores the dad and makes him wait when it is a favor. So because of the disrespect to his generosity, it is fair for his son to do this." And yeah, Ripe Stars, I would absolutely agree that it was fair to do this because I really despise people who abuse other people's generosity. In general, I really hate it when a-holes like the neighbor take advantage of nice people like OP's father. Please let us know in the comments what you think about this story. Do you maybe think that OP is the a-hole? Let us know what you think. And the next one is titled, "I certainly don't want to harass a customer." So finally I got a story to post here. I work in health IT. Specifically, I assist people with getting into various patient portals to access their health information, make appointments, message doctors, etc. 95% of the people who call us are nice and often grateful when we are able to help them get back into their portal. Some start as frustrated, but once they see we are able to help them and get them what they need, they transform and become sweet as pudding pie. And then there is the other 5%. Oh boy. A note here that the company I work for is excellent. They put an emphasis on customer service first, but also have our back if there are any genuine issues with a customer misbehaving. Everything is recorded, so if there are any questions, quality assurance or management can go back, hear for themselves and make recommendations as needed. All this leads to our caller for today. Mr. Douche was having problems getting into his portal. He calls me, literally yelling about how broken and garbage your system is, with a tone implying I personally picked the EHR and portal for a medical organization in another state just to spite him. But hey, no hurt feelings here. There are some things I don't like about the portal either, but he continues on and on about how much he hates it, all his friends hate it, his neighbors hate it, his pets hate it, and so on. When I can finally get a polite word in, I ask him for his name so I can look him up in our system. He spits out his name, Bob Douche. I also had to ask for 2 secondary identifiers to make sure he is the right Bob Douche. I ask for his date of birth and the last 4 of his SSN per procedure. He rants about why I cannot get him back into his chart now and screeches out the rest of the info. I try to find him in the system as he continues babbling angrily, and lo and behold, he is not in there. I politely ask him to spell his name.
Jeez, don't you know how to do your job?
Turns out his name is not spelled like the normal douche, it is spelled something like douche. Or however you would say that in American English. Anyway, I finally find him and open his file. So, you cannot get into the portal, sir?
Yes, didn't I just say that?
Okay, sir, I see your username is douchenozzle86. I cannot look up old passwords, so would you like me to give you a temporary one? Screaming intensifies.
I'm already in my portal,
he cries in fury, completely contradicting what he said mere seconds ago.
I need help finding my info.
I am now holding my headset away from my ear in pain. If my cubicle neighbor had not been at lunch, I'm pretty sure he would be able to hear this guy just as clearly as me. I'm sorry, sir, I thought you just said...
Don't you even know what you're doing?
Well, sir, what are you...
Why do you keep asking me these questions? You are harassing me.
Oh, well now, I cannot be harassing customers. That's just not appropriate and against our company's policies, of course. Deep breath, clear voice. Well, sir, I'm trying to assist you, but if you feel like I'm harassing you, then I'm afraid I need to end this call. The screaming had become unintelligible at this point, though. I hear a couple of curses thrown in as well. Remember how I said our company has our back? If abusive language is used, we are allowed to disconnect after a warning. And I had already told him that I was going to end this call. I'm sorry I wasn't able to help you, sir. Thank you for calling Patient Portal. Have a good day. Push end call. Per procedure, I immediately notified quality assurance of what had just happened in case the guy called back with complaints or started bellowing at other agents. QA listens to the call and comes back with, "Wow, that guy started angry and he never let up. You tried to help and you had more patience than I would have. You're fine." I went on to help many other lovely customers through the rest of the day. He thankfully never called back. I would not be surprised to find that he filled himself with so much rage, he spontaneously combusted, leaving a vacuum of bitterness behind in his place. And ripe stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel, but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously, and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.